Hello and welcome to Decorate It. My name is Mary. This is Wes, and tonight is episode 17. We're talking about guide wraps.
The least liked thing of rod building.
I hate them. I hate doing them. Absolutely hate doing them.
I'd rather do inline rods every time than wrap guides.
I think it's the monotony for me, having
It
to do
is.
the same thing over and over again, and then also getting all the way down to the tip where it's really small. And I know a lot of people give me heck because I work on surf rods and larger stuff, and I don't deal with ice rods. And
That's why I don't want to wrap the guides for you on the CTS.
well, yeah, I've got to get the guide wraps wrapped actually tomorrow on that CTS.
I want you to experience
Oh.
wrapping. I've wrapped that small. You haven't.
The infuriation of wrapping on a 2-weight. Yay! But anyway, so tonight we will kind of discuss a little bit about just some basic information on the guide wraps, kind of like over wraps, under wraps, forehand locking method.
What's that?
Exactly. And, how you prep your guides, if you prep your guides, why you should, and also like tensile strength, because that's a big topic that people are always asking, is A stronger than B or A stronger than C, stronger than D kind of thing. So let's talk about under wraps.
What about them?
So when you do under wraps on yours, do you do the under wraps then wrap the guide on with the over wraps as well, or do you do them separate with a coat of epoxy in
I
between?
will typically do them separate and a thin coat of epoxy, and then wrap the guides.
Why do you do it that way?
Air bubbles.
That's true. Why else?
Air bubbles.
It's
That's
off-
the only reason I do that. That's legitimate. Like, that's the only reason that I do it that way, is because I don't want to come back after I put epoxy on for the night, come back the next morning, and there be a very large childlike bubble right at the base of that guide.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people do it because it's easier to wrap the over wrap on top of it, and it doesn't cut into the thread underneath.
It's the same for me either way, because I'm doing it so thin that it doesn't make a difference. I just want as many of the air bubbles gone as possible.
Yeah, because when it gets right up in there at the feet and stuff, that's
Mhm.
when it gets to be really annoying because it's like crap, And
Yep.
if you don't baby it,
Sit there, pop, pop, pop.
pop little bubbles left and right. I like to do a thin coat of epoxy on mine as well. Not because of the bubble drama, but you do bring up a valid point. But it is easier to wrap over it for the most part for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have done it where I've wrapped everything together all at the same time. I usually do A for like literally almost everything. The over wrap, if I was doing it, A would be the under wrap, and then I would step it up to like B or C to do the over wrap. So it was easier and it didn't kind of bite into the thread underneath. But when you do it that way and you're wrapping all that stuff together, I typically like to put a couple drops of acetone into the mixture of epoxy so it will penetrate and you have less chance of the bubbles popping up.
Right.
But you don't want to do it on every coat. We found that
Why
out.
is that?
We found that out the hard way a long time ago. We wrapped an entire rod, sent it out. The epoxy had cured.
Yeah, it was hard as a rock, but
Hard as a rock, but the individual that we sold the rod to kept it in his vehicle during the summer at the beach for 2.5 months, basically. That's where he would
yeah,
store
because
his
he would
rod.
travel up and down the coast. So
He saw us last. He was like, "Hey, I need this fixed," and we're like, "What's wrong with it?" And he was like, "Well, just take a look." Well, the epoxy had started to kind of like drip off of it, I guess is the best way to
so
describe
like it
it.
sat at an angle in the car the whole time, and it all ran down. So like on the back side of the guide wrap, away from the guide on one side, it was like a lump, and then in between the guide feet was another lump. So
Mhm. It was horrible. We stripped it. We fixed it. And actually, I've not put acetone in any of the wraps or anything like that, or in the epoxy since, because it kind of like freaked me out. But if you do it, first coat is totally fine. It's not gonna cause that. Everything after that is just regular normal epoxy mix. But
Yep.
lesson learned. Take it from us. Over wraps. So there's this kind of like rule floating around out there when you start to get into the heavy duty rods that we're supposed to have a certain amount of over wraps and a certain size thread.
Sorry.
And a certain
Excuse me.
size thread for the over wraps as well. So typically bass and light inshore, even the rods that we sell for the king setups and stuff like that, we're only doing like one
It's
one
wrap
layer, one layer of the overwrap, and it's always in size A. I prefer A,
every time.
but once you start to go offshore, there is the big belief that you need to double wrap it in order
Why?
to keep the strength. I don't know what it is because we have double wrapped ours.
We have, but there's no point.
You're just like, no, there's no point.
There's no point.
On those, I mean, if it's running, if you've got like a sailfish on or something, or tuna or something like that, I would feel better having the double wraps just in case, because Lord help you get out there and you have a guide failure and you got the fish of a life on. Hey, my guide fell off in the middle of this, so I would personally still just put 2 wraps of it.
Some people need a blankie. It's okay.
I like to have my security blankets. It is what it is. And for overwrap, this is kind of where I'm going to transition into this. So there's always the biggest debate of which one is stronger, A, B, C, or D. And everybody's going to go with, well, D is stronger because whenever you go to try to pull it apart, if you wrapped it around your finger and pulled on it, it's not going to snap. But if you did that with A and you did the same thing, you're going to be able to snap it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tensile strength, obviously, between those, D is stronger. But, and we have proof of this, like 2016 proof or 17.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
It's been a while since we have it, but we had a live video we did in the Southern Rod Builders, and we were testing this. We took a piece of rebar and wrapped a guide on.
It wasn't rebar.
What was it?
It was just like a metal dowel.
Okay,
basically.
so a metal dowel. We wrapped a guide on a metal dowel with raw thread. We did it with A, and we did it with
We did it
C.
A, C, and D.
A, C, and D. Okay,
A
and
and C, I think.
no epoxy on this stuff. It was wrapped how it was supposed to be wrapped. Nothing fancy, just one straight color.
Packed nice and tight. Like
Everything was nice and tight on the thing. And we wanted to see at what poundage, how much it would take to break the thread, because we've always been told that the more revolutions of the thread going around it, which would be A, is going to have a stronger bond from the guide foot to the blank than D, because there's going to be less of it because it's so big.
mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, flat out, it took, over 250 pounds and you jumping on the weight?
most of it, I ended up like tying 80 or 100-pound mono to the guide, wrapping it around my foot and literally forcing it off. And even then, it bent the guide feet before the thread popped.
On A.
Yeah.
A was the one that was actually the strongest. C and D,
C and D did pop.
It cut the thread as the guide was trying to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, not a single application of any of our blanks or rods are going to be having that much weight put on one single guide.
And that's why, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because if you load a rod up, pull the line off of the guide with a scale, it is a minuscule amount of power to take the line away from the guide.
Right.
Like,
well, the entire rod, as long as the guide train's set up the way that's supposed to be, it's sharing that whole load.
Yeah.
So it's not like one guide's going to do it, but just for our funs and giggles and test purposes, A was actually stronger because it had more revolutions, and the guide foot is actually what failed first
before
and
the actual
slipped
wrap.
out. And there, like I said, we have a live video of this from, it was like 2016-ish, or maybe 2017, but we did it in the Southern Rod Builders. And I don't know if it's floating around
We
anymore.
were testing it in the variation of it was on a spinning rod, technically speaking, because we had to pull,
down.
like, I would pull up, the guide would be under, and it would pull straight down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously he couldn't, he couldn't yank it out. But yeah, there was one that I think it was the A, which you ended up like stomping on it to get it to actually snap.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the fun little fact. Do your testing for yourself, but
Test everything.
everything.
Don't believe
everything.
some crap you read.
Don't believe us, do your own stuff. Forehand locking wrap. What is that and why do we use it?
It's a locking wrap.
Uh,
No, it's a wrap that you do on typically smaller freshwater guides that it's 1 or 2 turns, your choice really, around the end of the guide as you're wrapping it, and then 1 or 2 turns after the guide behind it.
mm-hmm. And it's
just another locking wrap to keep that guide from going. Doo. It works very well on size 6, 5, 4, 3 micros because those will literally just come out because the feet are so small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you only got a little bit for the thread to grab and the epoxy, which granted, the thread is what keeps the the guide foot to the blank. The epoxy is what keeps the thread from failing. So both of those combined is what's supposed to
Here's a
keep
question
everything
for
from
you.
breaking.
Here's a question.
What?
Do you need thread to hold a guide on a rod?
Absolutely not. You don't. You can do it the pain in the butt way, and
It's not a pain in the butt.
it is the pain in the
It's
butt.
just-
I can't imagine trying to do it that way.
The epoxy is what's holding the guide.
Epoxy is what's holding the guide, and you can use, what is it called?
Permagloss.
Permagloss to actually stick a guide on there. I have not done it. I wouldn't want to go through the hassle of trying to get it to stay, but
You just glue it down.
that's another way to do a see-through wrap because you're not actually wrapping it.
Glue it in place. Just wrap, put permagloss on it, and just coat it till it's covered.
Right.
It works.
Learn all kinds of fun little things tonight, right? What else? Oh, prepping the guide feet. So, straight up honest, because you guys know that we are honest with everything that we do. We have not in the past actually prepped our guide feet. There's very, very, very few times that I've actually sat down and actually prepped the guide foot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this stage in my building, I actually want to start doing it because I'm starting to deal with these guide feet that are really like chunky where it starts to go, and
Monkeys.
it makes it kind of really hard to get that transition looking smooth.
Well, that and it gives a cleaner line for there not to be any gaps in your thread.
Easier to pack, 100%. But if you were gonna prep a guide foot, like what would you do? What would you use?
Drum will go bzzz.
Because I've heard some people use a bench sander,
Belt sanders,
or belt sander.
belt grinders,
Some
or
people
bench
use
grinders.
some are using a cuticle file.
Yep, cuticle files. I typically just grab the Dremel and zzz, zzz.
Just make sure you have a steady hand. Don't knock the frame or
I
anything.
mean, they make a tool, but you can put the guide ring in this tool. So, like, there's a post. Your guide ring goes over top of it. The foot sticks out, and you can literally sit there and hold it and. Zzz, 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 zzz.
I have to find that because I haven't seen that yet.
You've used it.
I've not used it.
You
I've
have.
never prepped a guide
The
foot
first
before.
day we got it, I took it out here and went, "Hey, watch what this can do." Zzz, zzz, zzz. And you was like, "Oh, well, that's nifty."
Well, then there we go. We got one for Mudhole, and I just apparently.
She's used it before. She just don't remember. The last time we used it was Todd's rods.
Oh, see, I don't remember anything that happened 10
Because
years
he
ago.
was always wanting those Fuji micros.
Nope. That's why I don't remember, because that was so long ago. That was before the kids came, so the kids basically ate that brain cell. I always
Right.
had this personal belief that I didn't want to take off the coating that was on the guide because I didn't want it to prematurely rust, because when we were doing repairs and stuff, there was all kinds of guide feet that were coming back, and they obviously there was holes in the epoxy that the water was working its way into the tunnels and stuff, but it was rusty feet left and right. And I was like, I don't really want to take any more coating off to make more rusty feet, so I just never got in the habit of it. But when we start going to these small diameter blanks and stuff, it definitely is probably going to
helps.
make life easier. But then again, the smaller guides also don't have these massive fat little feet either.
Mhm.
So I think it just depends on what guide you're getting, honestly. Anyways, so the Southern Rod Builders contributed a ton of photos tonight. We have 91. A lot of these just are going to be basically inspiration. Everybody's always asking for inspiration photos of what to do for guide wraps. Well, boom, here we go. Here's a ton of stuff that you guys can do.
And some of them that are a little different, we'll probably stop and pause on. And,
Yeah, and appreciate and just discuss some stuff.
Or how'd you do that?
Yep, how they did it, maybe what they used. And here we go. So, Abby's up first with, gorgeous little wrap. She's doing it right on the ferrule with the guide wrap. So, she started with magenta, went into a lime green, to purple, did her saw blades, and then wrapped up the rest of it. Another one of Abby's, just beautiful ferrule wraps going into her guides.
It's very clean.
Very clean, very classy, looks great. Very simple too, having the white band at the end, a couple inlays where it's the side by side in the middle, reversing it back out, and then she chose to do just the solid color on the shorter side. Pretty cool. Another one of Abby's beautiful fly rods. Another one where it's just a simple guide wrap, but it is just the right amount of detail for this kind of stuff. Just, that blue's pretty. I like that blue blank. Another one of Abby's. This looks like a carry-on from the ferrule wrap that we just saw a minute ago. Nicely done. This is another one of Abby's. I want to zoom in. Look what she put on the guide wrap. How fun is that? Oh, the Muppet. I see it now.
I see it now. Yep. That's really cool.
That is really nice. I like that with the gold touch on it. So, she's the only one that I saw actually put a decal like this on a guide wrap, and it's such an easy way to like jazz up the guide wrap. So another one of Abby's, gold and burgundy, basically just the most classic way to do a color combo. And she also included her saw blade. Another one of Abby's, this looks like it is copper and black. Nicely done. Doing saw blades with metallic, like Jesus. We have actually seen this one from Abby before when we did the fade.
Mm-hmm.
Just nice little detail to just kind of transition into it. And doing that right at the beginning, keeping those lines straight and it not kind of moving around going up the guide foot. That in itself, I struggle with that personally. Another one of Abby's. I love this color combo. That is the greens, turquoise, and the blue. You can't ever go wrong with that. Once again, she's throwing in saw blades with metallic. Another one of Abby's. Classic color combo with the royal blue, white, and black. Saw blades stand like you got some nice saw blades, Abby. Those are legit. Another one of Abby. It's like a gray kind of tinted thread that she's got mixed with
It
purples and
looks like
pinks
that
and
gunmetal metallic that we have too.
oh, that might be, yeah. And I really like how you go from she's got her tie off with a bunch of different like inlays and changing it up and stuff. Then you see her stripper has got a different. It starts to has the bronze and then like the magenta and probably the purple on the outside, and then it downsizes and then she goes to the solid color as she gets smaller. I kind of do the same thing when I transition through guides. My pattern either shrinks or I start to drop off colors.
Mm-hmm.
Just makes it easier out there towards the tip. Another one of Abby's, classic green and gold. I do have to zoom out so we can appreciate the fact that she matched the guide as well.
I love gold guides.
Mm-hmm. Brian Ward. So, interesting color combo. I wouldn't put these two together, but it kind of works. It's kind of a coral mixed with what?
That's a honey lammies and honey fenwicks.
Oh, the old, yeah, the color. I'm not too much of a fan. But simple, easy guide wrap. A couple trims at the end. Wrap it up.
Is that one double wrapped?
It does appear to be because it's kind of a little bulky right there at the edge.
Yeah,
but
you see where it stops.
yeah, because you can see the cutoff where it has that little
simple, clean.
Mm-hmm. And nothing wrong with that, with us pointing out the little cutoff, because I've got, well, you'll see it in mine later on. I've got one that has an example of the cutoff too.
Well, and by showing that double wrap with it stopping earlier, it shows that you have an opportunity to do another color underneath and it poke through.
Yeah, and not have to worry about doing the trim at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do the multiple layers. They'll plan out how their trims will do, and they'll do shorter and shorter wraps to kind of get them to pop out.
Yep.
Another one of Brian Ward, so he's gone with blue and then this pretty metallic blue over top of it, and then the blank is metallic, glittery blue. So it's
you know what I want to say when I look at this?
Blue, da ba dee da ba da. That's literally what I was thinking too. Brian Ward coming in with the dragon scale with wrapping over it with the gray. Classic little under wrap. I wouldn't personally do a dragon scale under every guide that went up the thing. I'd eventually like phase that out. I'll probably keep it for the stripper only. Brian Ward. So this is a nice little photo that you can see. This is another kind of technique. Now, whether or not he meant to do it or it was, I can see that that's CP that's on there. That's not epoxy.
Mm-hmm.
That's CP. So what you could try to do for those that don't really want to actually do epoxy in between the layers is you can put your under wrap on, put CP over top of it, and you can typically let it dry for like 30 minutes or so it's really dry. And you can typically wrap over it without it really digging in. So that's another option. As long as you're not like, freaked out about CPing guides, which that's a whole other discussion. We'll get into it a later episode. But just a cool little, easy peasy trims. Like, I don't think guide wrap should ever be so super complicated. But at the same time, things like what Casey Portier brought into the table, this is just cool. Like Mardi Gras. First off, the blank is what sticks the most out to me because he's got the marbling and he's done under there, which is freaking crazy. It's crazy, but it's awesome. And then going back with the from black, then did that side-by-side blending method, going into the purple, going into the gold, the green, and then back out to black. Chase coming in with a in-progress wrap. That saw blade is insane. This is one of those ones where I look at people and I applaud them for doing this, but I'm not putting that much detail in mine. I'm not
taking the time for it.
I'm not doing it because I hate guide wrap so much, but this is gorgeous. Like, it really is. These are just one of those ones. And he's even gone as far as to separate each of those trims with the black in between to get them to stand out more. Like, a lot of work. Gorgeous. Really cool. Chris Carver. Another really nicely done wrap. For me personally, I like to keep my guide wrap shorter, closer to the feet. But everybody also has their own personal preference.
And there's no telling how big that blank is.
Right. That could be a big surf blank. That could be the stripper. It might be the second guide. Who knows? But I just personally like to do shorter wraps.
Which is also why we don't do as much intricacies on our guide wraps.
Yes, because usually I'm somewhere between 5 to 10 turns before I start up the foot.
Yep.
And I'm not doing a whole bunch of stuff. I'll do trims, but I won't do a whole lot of stuff. But this is very clean with the yellow, burgundy, and black. Very nice. Chris Carver with a Rasta colored one. I really enjoy how he did the under wrap on this one because he's gone from the green and then he did like a single turn of the yellow and then a bigger band and then it's not quite a fade, but it transitions kind of like a fade.
And here's something for y'all to debate while we're going through these. Do you center the under wrap or any trim that you do under the guide
Oh yeah.
between the distance of the feet in the middle or in the middle of the guide?
Yeah. I personally like to do my center in the between the frames of the feet.
Symmetrical, period.
Symmetrical, not under the, because a lot of guides like this one, for instance, if you're doing it under the actual ring,
It goes to
it
the
would
right.
be to the front, and I personally that makes my eye twitch.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's different. Let's zoom out on this one. This is another one of Chris Carver's. Silver blank with really cool whites with a blue, green, and a darker blue. Just real simple, adding the extra little trims here and there. For me personally, trying to do what he did in the middle section actually takes me the longest, where I've got the trim lining up with the edge of the foot and then centering it, and then the other way. I don't know what it is, but every single time I'll count them, I'll measure them, I'll do all of the things, and I still end up having to rewrap that thing 2 or 3 times. Christopher's guide wrap.
It's got
Teal.
light blue and light blue and
And it's
light
a bunch
blue
of different shades of blue.
and some white.
And some white, and just a nice little center in the middle. It's just a nice use of different kinds of bands, thicker bands to certain colors, a block of color here, and then side by sides, and just a nice use of the different techniques you can put together.
Mm-hmm. I do like the different shades of blue,
Mhm.
though.
Yeah. So, Christopher, I do have to mention this. So, this is actually not a guide wrap. This is what he used a guide for a hook keeper, but I put it in here because every count of thread, every number of things that he did on here actually means something to the customer he built this for.
Okay.
A group that they were in together. I just don't remember what the group was. So, but a nice, it's a killer looking hook keeper area. But did you know you can use guides as hook keepers? Dun, dun, dun.
We do.
We have some. They don't
We
have.
use the ringless ones.
We use the ringless ones.
Little small, like size 5s or 6s.
Dean Ryan. We saw one version of this before because I recognized the background on this as soon as it came in. So, just a nice saw blade on the guide frame or on the guide foot. Real easy peasy. Well, not easy peasy, but real just simple. Went from silver to blue to the saw blade, and the guide ring is even blue, looks like, or it might be the iridescent one. I can't tell. Another couple examples of Dean Ryan's work. So first thing I noticed in this one, it was not the guide wraps, it was the blank. Like 100% the blank. That is a cool little cell job that he did, like in that acrylic painting stuff that I've been looking into. They call that like opening up cells in the paints where it kind of separates and stuff. It almost looks like crackle paint too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to call it, but it's really, the vibe of that is really cool. And he chose to go with what I would have done too. Super simple. One trim at the end, solid color, wrap, so that the marbling job, whatever he did there, is what stands out the best. Very, very cool. It looks like he also reversed his guides.
Yeah, because if you look at the one in the back, the other
Mhm.
guide is opposite.
Mm-hmm. And it's spiraling, so that he did this as a spiral wrap. So, Wes, while we're sitting here looking at Dean's going, why would we reverse the stripper? Because we didn't discuss that.
It depends on the application, honestly. It's to keep the line from catching on the feet.
Ding, ding, ding. Another one of Dean Ryan's. You guys have to look at his guide wrap.
Is that teeth?
That's teeth in there. He put shark teeth in his guide wrap.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So Eric, bunch of metallic on this one. So a black overwrap with a bunch of different inlays underneath of it, and changed up the pattern and then some just fun stuff. Another one of Eric's. I can't tell if it's the light that he took it with or if that thing's glowing, but the colors in it looks like it's a glow in the dark
I
lamp.
think it's the flash from the camera.
But it's bright. But just, overwrapped with the bright color, underwraps the black and the darkest of the trims at the edges. I mean, it literally looks like it's a glow stick. Another one of Eric's. Looks like he's used a Mylar piece underneath for the underwrap of the guide and then gone back over it with silver and gold for the overwrap. Mylar is another great thing you can put under there. It takes no time at all to put that stuff on there. Freddie is back. I was telling Wes, I was like, I love the way he does his fades. Like, I don't know what it is. It's probably because it just automatically creates this like an ombre effect where it comes from the dark and then it's just like poof, there's the bright light. And he's obviously the one that when we were doing the fade wraps, he kind of came up with that Mexican blanket technique where he mixes a bunch of different things to try to mimic them. And this is one where he's got on one side the dark blue going into the white, and then on the other side of the center of that guide, he split it from the yellow going to the black. So just a cool wrap overall. Great use of the fade, pumping in a whole bunch of different colors to create a cool looking wrap and aesthetic on that rod. I think this guide particular, this is probably one of the ones I saw previously that I thought, man, I've got to implement that, because that dark black going into that white with just a dark trim in the middle, it looks like it's just lit up. And it doesn't matter how you take the picture, where you take it, it automatically creates that look. So, and I actually was a little inspired by how he was doing his stuff, and I kind of started throwing in some of mine doing that as well. All right, this is Gilbert's. And this one is fun because underneath the guide wrap, he's actually taking the cigar leaf and applied it for the under wrap with CP, and then gone back over it and wrapped with a brown. So a bunch of different things you can do for under wraps. And then another one of Gilbert's. This is actually abalone. I've never seen abalone in that color, but another great example of what you can use for under wraps. Abalone. This one is Glen Goss. Just a real simple, cute wrap where he's got the red metallic kind of. That one's probably one of the newer ones that's come out and then gone into the blue metallic. Jason No. Great use of color and trim bands and just going from solids on the over wraps to having most of the color on the under wraps, trims at the edges. Just great aesthetic. You can definitely tell when you start looking at multiple builds from people that they have their own kind of style and what they prefer. So Jason Birch, a guide wrap what's actually been used because it's got line in it. This is what I call a very classic wrap. You've got a solid color for underneath, and then a looks like burgundy, and then just some silver trim put in there. Just nice classic little wrap. Jim Bowers coming from Australia, so he put in a bunch. And you're going to see a bunch of different styles from him. And he goes crazy on his guide wraps. There is no way in the world that I'd sit down and do that many inlays on my guide wraps. Because usually I'm trying to get done with them. I just don't like to do them. But just a nice use of really just silver, burgundy, and black. Just bouncing back and forth between different styles of trims. Another one of Jim's where he's put a dragon scale underneath of it and then wrapped over the top. Looks like in a couple different over wraps. And another one of Jim's. Another great example of a dragon scale under a guide wrap. And then over wrapping with different colors. Another one of Jim's. He's got a spinning guide where he's got a couple. It looks like he layered it twice with the gray underneath. And then went back over it with the red and the white and the black. Bunch of different uses of trim. Jim again coming in with putting a pattern. So he's got a heart for the under wrap on the side that you'd be seeing it. And then cut it off and then wrap the guide on as well. So that's another thing that you can do. You typically aren't going to do that on a lot of the rods, but the bigger, heavier surf rods, you could definitely throw in some fun stuff there. Another one of Jim's. Great use of just trim bands and inserting different styles and colors. Maze wrap underneath this one. He had the wrap going and then put the guide straight on top of this, wrapped it on. I like that maze wrap. That's really nice, actually.
I wonder if that ring glows.
I don't know. It looks like it would, doesn't it? Another one where he's got a heart underneath. This is the one that reminds me of watermelon for some reason.
Immediate first thought, like...
Immediately, like watermelon. I don't know why, but that's what my brain goes to. Hey, that's watermelon. But great colors. Pink, black, and doing the fade. He does the fade out and then back in. Like, that's so much work on that guide wrap. I just can't. Jim Bowers, another wrap underneath his guide. And then choosing to do color blocks. That's another option that you can do, too. You don't have to do all these fine little single line turns and stuff.
Block it off.
You could do blocks. Another one of his. He always has these fun, like, metallic colors pushed into his. Metallics all over the place on this one. But is that the Tencel or is that actual? I might have to have a conversation with him about what that is.
I don't know, but I like it.
Dig it, right?
I like it.
I like it. I like it. This is one. He is the only one that showed up with marbling under his, minus Casey's, which that had marbling, but like traditional marbling just in the center. You can marble under your guides too. That's another one of those rings that look like it glows in the dark, but just this one's blue, yellow, and white. Another one of Jim's dragon scale
with trim.
With trim, and then overwrap with black. Classic. Another one where this one's just insane. Like I think that's a diamond wrap from how it is appearing. Yeah, it's a diamond wrap that he's done, and then he has this entire massive the the over wraps are fade in, fade out, fade in, fade out, fade in, fade out, and that's
That guide is faded.
it's a faded wrap. I'd have to call that rod the faded rod. I mean, but just classic black and gold. Just insane amount of work there. Jim Lew's. This is getting into what I typically see most people doing, where you've got the bigger trims at the edges, then you've got the overwrap, a couple singles in the middle, another one of Jim's. So this one's fun because it almost appears that he's got like thread is like doing this little skip where the gold. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that he's using the metallic as like an olive branch, and it is just disappearing under the black.
Metallic is the straight on a saw blade. And the black is the blade going around.
So he made it look like a little polka dots going all the way around. Nice trick, Jim. That made my brain hurt trying to figure that one out. Another one of Jim's. Nice use of the olive branch on this one, where the red in the center. Good looking wraps. Koi Vu. I'm like once again, we get to see the transition from going from the bigger guide to the smaller guide. But his guide actually, he keeps a lot of the detail, but he does shrink his design. So that's a big.
Which Koi does some great work.
Yes.
And you'll never see his work under his name.
Mm-mm.
You're looking for Team No Invite.
Yeah.
If you want to look up his work. He's got a video in one of the other groups, Custom Rod Builders, on how he did that.
Yeah. Mark McKenna. So we're getting back into some fly rods in here. So this is a great kind of example of how you can see how the ferrule wraps go in and are slightly different than what the actual guide wraps are.
The ferrule wraps match the stripper guide,
mm-hmm.
And then the actual snake guides lose the trim.
Yeah, which Abby did that in one of the other ones we saw too. Absolutely perfect technique because they're so aggravating to wrap to begin with. Another one of Mark McKenna's where the ferrules once again have a little bit more detail, and then he drops off and picks up the last color he wrapped for the snake guides. Mark McKenna again with this kind of fade going on, and then black for the snake guides. So you guys can see the whole picture because it's a pretty build. Mark McKenna again coming in with that, what is that, agate with just a nice simple one little trim. He uses all silk. So did you know that silk comes in many different colors?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people knew that, but he uses all silk. So he's got Mark
It's
McKenna.
a very traditional way to wrap rods on fly rods.
Mm-hmm. So he used a color that was almost identical to the blank, but it's just very, very soft. And then he's got the two bright colors for the trims on this one. That's a very classic kind of way to do the fly rod wrap, in my opinion. Obviously he's using silk, so he's definitely using thread that's smaller than size A. Pretty sure this is Mark's again. Yeah, Mark McKenna again. Once again.
You can tell by the background.
Mm-hmm. That is silk thread. So just so you can see it, which it's kind of cool because the silk retains its color, but it also like goes translucent. But you still get to see the guide foot, but also have that kind of color on the blank too. So that's a fun little trick. So y'all know that I like to do a lot of outside the box things. But another surf rod build, and he wanted it to be the dress blues for the Marines. All of it was matching everything I could possibly match on the actual suit. And so I even went and that one single red thread that's pulled across the top in a straight line, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. But that was done with pull-throughs. I yanked it under on the bottom side with a pull-through. Once I got the black kind of in there, and I put the pull-through once it started, I yanked it under, and then I kept it off of the wrap and put in two pull-throughs. And so I finished off the black and then yanked the red under it, and trying to keep that thing straight while I was yanking it under. That was what was absolutely aggravating about this. Because you see, I went with basic because I was dressing up with decoration. So the red line is what took me the longest on these. And the gold little studs are nail studs. Fun little additives that you can do. AB1 guides, those little floating roller guides that they had. And this was on one of their blanks too. This was obviously the stripper. And I wrapped over part of the wrap. And like I said, true to my fashion, I don't do crazy wraps for the most part. So I literally just put two trims and the black. And this is double wrap. So the green that's underneath is my first layer.
No.
Yes, it is.
No,
and the
this
black
is triple wrap.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is triple wrap because there's actually a bumper underneath the foot. So the feet aren't actually sitting on the wrap itself, they're actually sitting on a bumper of thread to keep those feet from getting epoxied in place and it not moving. And then the green was wrapped, and then the black was wrapped over top.
Yep.
And obviously the sugar skulls. So like I said, I will straight up tell you this build, this one in particular, the original sugar skull was a rebuild. So the black guide wrap actually existed on the blank, and I didn't feel like stripping them down because there's nothing wrong with the place. So I left the black guide wrap. And I went back over it with a fade wrap. I know I sit here and tell you I hate doing this stuff and I don't do anything fancy. And yes, these went way above what I normally would do. I hated myself every single day wrapping these guides. I will flat out tell you that. Because I had to change how much the fade changed as it got towards the tip and dropping colors, and it was chaos. But then I also went back and...
It also took you 6 months to do those.
Yeah, because I'd get so mad I'd put it down for like 2 weeks because I
Yep.
was like, it's not on the timeline. Go away. But I put dried flowers on it, few little rhinestones, and I did the white polka dots. That's actually a fingernail polish that I did with the dotting tool going all the way around. The sugar skulls were the crazier ones that I've done. This was in progress. Obviously, I hadn't done the overwrap. I was trying to get the bottom to match up and to tell on myself. Remember how I said I have to do it multiple times? If you look at the right side of the foot, guess what? Mary had to rewrap that one again because I didn't get it lined up just right.
Yep.
So I was pretty mad. But everything was anchored in, so I could just go back to the burgundy and just basically wrap that half out again. But I'm real anal about that matching up the way it's supposed to. I was pretty mad about having to do that. I think I did that one like 2 or 3 times. Another one of mine, obviously it's a microwave guide. It's not going to be facing in that direction, but I did it because that was just a cool look to the photo. I was actually showing people how to do trims, I believe, because I started with black, put the white in, and then wrapped up, and then reversed it back out. Just simple aesthetic. This was for tux. Remember tux?
Yep.
Black and white. I was getting aggravated when I was doing this because the black was showing through the white when I was wrapping it. And I actually asked the group, how am I supposed to hide these tags? Because I'm cutting them as short as I possibly can. And they were like, do the nail knot?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time I tried the nail knot. I wish I could have found one of the under photos, but it's basically, there's no tags. You just end up like tying it off or tying it in like a knot and hiding the edges. And no black peeking through your white. There's the yellow one. So that's just another example of me keeping that trend of the sugar skulls with dried flowers and stuff. And no, that dried flowers aren't really a pain. You just use CP with them, and that's
treat them just like feathers.
Treat them just like feathers. You just the only thing with these is because they are dried when you get them, you have to drop them in water to rehydrate them. But it's stuff that you can, little things you can add to the guide wraps. I did carry the flowers all the way up towards the tip. The tip even had a flower on it, but I shrunk the flowers as they got towards the tip, so there wasn't as much stuff to do. And this one's probably a good example of what I would typically do for customers. I have the wrap where I tied it off, and then the first guide came here. And like I said, when I saw Freddie's kind of like that going to the bright and having that trim in the middle, I was like, I kind of like that. I want to try it. So this was one of the first times I did it. And there's actually 5 colors coming from black going towards that hot pink, even though the last 2 kind of blend really well together. All right, so this is Michael Kennett's. This is a great looking wrap. It starts with silver. Yeah, it starts with silver, goes to white, does the side by side to that kind of, we're going to call that mint for now, just for ease of purposes, to a different blue into that kind of, blue done.
Yes.
And then going to the trims at the end, in the middle, just really great looking wrap. Another one of Michael Kennett's. As you can see, we start to see everybody's personal styles kind of peeking out where he's got the trims at the ends, then goes into the colors. I like this color combo with this orange, pink, purple, kind of it's a darker purple, black, like, looks good. Another one of Michael's. Same thing again, but he started with grays, different grays going side by side at the ends, and then burgundy and then yellow with a little bit of orange thrown in there. But you can see he's wrapped the tip. He keeps the same aesthetic, it looks, because that's a smaller guide at the top. So it looks like he does keep basically the same. He may change his thread counts, but another really bright looking, nice wrap. Another one of Michael Kennett. Really cool color combo between the pink and the orange and white and kind of maroon or a plum color, depending on how you look at it. Another one of Michael Kennett's. Basically that nice looking fade going to black, from white to turquoise to black, and then having that bright blue in the middle. It just, that kind of style of wrapping just makes it stand out to me.
I'd like that even more if it had a single black in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Michael Ward. So he's done a lot of detail in this one. Kudos to him for doing a bunch of the side-by-sides and keeping them straight and all the way up the guide. Another one of Michael Ward's. We actually saw this when we were talking about the fade wraps. Just a fade from yellow to green, black overwrap. Same for the under. Another one of Michael Ward. So this is the one that we saw during the Dragon Scale one. And this one, I swear, looks like plaid, like a faux plaid kind of thing.
Tartan plaid.
Tartan plaid. This one's really cool because he did the eagle in grays and whites. And I don't think I've ever seen one wrapped in that color palette. I've always seen them like in the typical either
Orange
red,
and
white, and blue, or
bronze
the
and-
orange, the browns and the bronze and that kind of stuff. So, and then he's wrapped over it. He did a great job of getting the space so that each bird was seen. So kudos to that because that's kind of hard sometimes. Michael Ward in really nice looking guide wrap. Just simple trims, blue, blue and silver. You just can't go wrong with that. Patrick coming in with a nice and simple but aesthetically pleasing guide wrap. I do dig having those little, like the white trims that kind of balance where the feet are. Sean Page, another one where you're going to see a certain kind of style poking out. Start with the trims, bright trims going into black with a trim at the end. Kind of breaks up that big black section that would happen. Just nicely done. This is kind of like mint purple and pink with black. Another one of Sean's. Same kind of style. This one reminds me, I don't know why, and I know it's not, but it kind of reminds me of Rainbow Bright for some reason. But she's starting with that mint color with
Makes
yellow.
me think light bright.
Maybe it's light bright instead of rainbow bright. But it's pretty. This one, first off, I love the aesthetic of this picture just because of the angle it is. Like, you don't get to appreciate the whole actual wrap, but you obviously know that it's repeating on the other side. But I like that it's facing us at an angle. But traditional kind of neon green, neon yellow, that blue and black mixed in with a whole bunch of different trims. Just good color combo. Steven Mendoza. So we've got a fun little red, white, and blue wrap. Or actually, it's burgundy, white, and blue. He's done a lot of trims at the beginning, transitioned into, like, I guess that's metallic based off the texture. Metallic, like a burgundy metallic and gold with white, with some olive branches, and then the blue. A lot of work on that little guide. Another one is Steven. He's
I like the subtleness of that.
It's very subtle, and it's very nicely
I want to
done.
see that under epoxy, though.
Yeah, I wonder if it held the two different shades, because it's, what is that, like a military
Olive.
green? It's olive. You got like one that's the lighter one and slightly darker. And he's done a couple trims and then faded into the darker one. It's very cool. Another one is Steven, so he's going with all metallic basically in this one, except for the yellow, but the mahi colors with a saw blade in the middle. Another one is Steven's. This is a lot of trim work in this one. That is a lot of...
Holy trims, Batman.
That's so many trims. Just black and white with a little bit of gray thrown in there. There's so much going on this. So you've got up at the top, you've got singles, doubles, and single turns. Then you've got a couple metallics thrown in the same way. Then you go through a block of white with grays in it.
There's a ton of work.
It's a lot of little details in that. Just a ton of work. Way more than I'm willing to do. Vincent Gregory. So first off, this photo is so cool. I love his logo. I would have never thought to slap my logo on a ferrule. That's his logo, Vincent Gregory. He's using silk. You can tell by how the thread looks. And he's done, I'm going to assume that with the snake guide, he's probably got a nail knot to hide the tags. But some people do leave the tags because they don't mind it, because you can see where it's put in. This one's fun, too. There's another one of Vincent's. This one,
Just similar to how that's done with silk underneath.
That's when I first glanced at it. I said, did he wrap wire on that thing? It's metallic.
Better watch out. The people will come out saying that you drilled through the blank. And
oh, man, I forgot to put Holt Buster on there. Oh, well. All right. This one's got silk on it, and then he's gone back over it with metallic and in very old school fashion, wrapping it with leaving the gap on it. It's very cool. I literally, when I first saw it, thought, is that wire? Because of the bulk difference in the size of the threads. Will Easter.
that's cool.
This is really cool. So it's taking the red, white, and blue and, putting it in block form. Simple to do. But everybody's asking him how he did the stars.
Nail art.
Nope, he did not use nail art for that.
No.
He actually got the Cricut to cut them out, and he stuck them on there. They're vinyl. But you can get stars from the nail art department
Yes,
as well.
you can.
And I actually, in previous wraps that required stars, I got the little confetti iridescent ones that were like silver, and I would stick them on there with CP. So all 91 photos. Thank you, everybody that contributed tonight. It's a whole lot of stuff that is options, different styles to do, different ways to do the wraps. But I mean, basically the same thing. As long as we got thread holding the guide wrap on, not a whole
You don't
lot of
have to have
rules.
thread.
Not a whole lot of stuff that you have to really concern yourself with. We are going to be talking about the product of the night now, which is dun dun dun. What's in the box?
So these are the CRB alignment and spacer set. I use these majority for spacing skeleton seats, or if like on the Palmetto build that we did where you split the metal rail seat.
Yep.
It'll help you to have the spacing to be able to customize and cut out the center, or to put a skeleton seat at proper distance. The other thing is this little bar at the top has a dot that you can use to help align your guides, and I have used these for that, and it does help. You kind of have to treat it like a gun sight, so to speak, where you're kind of focusing on the dot, then focusing on the guides, and using the guides when you're focused on them to have the dot in the picture. They work very well for everything we've used them for so far.
Mm-hmm. So that is.
They are aluminum. They're
Yeah.
not like plastic or something like that.
And they come in a fun little case, so you don't lose them.
As long as you put them back and don't let your kids touch them.
Mm-hmm. Or, don't have the pick it up, put it down syndrome that everybody in this household has. We'd like to take a minute and thank our sponsors. Thank you, Foundation Outdoor Group, for one, being able to supply us with things that we can do for giveaways, two, being an awesome all-around company, being able to go teach at other places and travel, and just really allowing us to do what we love to do, which is go out and teach.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to the Foley event and also ICAST, and I will be teaching again at Mudhole whenever they get their advanced
Seminars listed.
I'm think when I talked to Todd at ICAST,
He was shooting for October.
like October-ish or anything like that. But also congratulations to Todd Vivian
On
for
retirement.
retiring, kind of retiring, half retiring, because he's still going to be doing some stuff, but he's not. He's enjoying his retirement now, but legend in the field.
And Bob's coming soon to retirement.
Bob's going to be retiring soon, too. Hate to see both of them go. But thank you for everything that you guys do. I really do appreciate it. But basically, guide wraps, you can do almost anything that you really want to do with them as long as it doesn't take away from the action of the blank and or affect any purpose of what's going on. Multiple trim inlays. You can use abalone. You can use mylar, and you can marble under them. What else? We can do dried feathers, and you could put dried flowers and feathers on them, little single pulls of string. Like my abstract one didn't make it in there tonight. Oh well, that's fine. You can do abstract wrap over top of it. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can do decals. You can do fingernail dots and paintings. Like just sky's the limit. Because when we start adding these really thin like decals or like little polka dots like I did on mine, like it's not adding any weight to it.
You could do the water slide too.
You can do a water slide.
Images.
You could just do a straight black wrap.
We didn't see any of that.
There's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't see tonight. And you could jazz up all your wraps with like these cool little water slides that go all the way up the thing, and that's not as much work as what half of these people are doing in there. So sky is the limit for options in that. Just make sure that you are completely covering the guide foot. You're not wrapping too far up the guide foot, because anywhere that we have thread, we obviously want to cover it with epoxy. And we don't want the epoxy to climb the feet and cause you to have a massive amount of buildup underneath, because that will cause premature cracks. You usually will see it on a lot of store-bought rods where the epoxy is super thick under those, the frame, and they'll come back for a repair, and that's 90% of the time that's where it's cracked, is right there at the bottom. Usually it's a big sign, too much epoxy in that area. So
Thinner is better.
Thinner is better, 100%. And
even if it takes 20 coats.
Yeah, we do thin coats, multiple thin coats. I think the most that we've done was 13 on a wrap one time, but typically it's like 4 to 6.
16, and it still probably needs another 10 or 20.
Oh, Hulkbuster?
Yeah.
Well, Hulkbuster's got cogs in it. That's a little different. They were trying to cover those up. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you are not subscribed, subscribe to our channel, Decorative Studio.
If you have questions after watching it from when we were doing this live, feel free to ask them there too.
Yep, and I'm going to try to tag down below in the comment section on the actual video the how-to on the forehand lock that I have, just so people can actually get a visual.
Did you do a nail knot one?
Of what it was. I have not done a nail knot, so I have to add that to the list. And if you are listening to this, then you can go check out the Decorative Studio on YouTube and find those links to be able to learn how to do those the forehand lock is there. I'll have to do a nail knot so I can help some other people learn how to do that without having tags on their stuff.
Yep.
Y'all have a great night. We'll chat later. Bye.